all said and done, what I'm going to do, these traps haven't been treated yet. They need to,
I need to move.
yeah, no, you're okay, Stim, that's all right. I'll get your toes. It won't only hurt for a minute.
Good idea.
It'll only hurt for a minute.
You use the sandwich as bait?
Sure, we can do that. Now, years ago, we didn't have to use double stake. We didn't have to worry about coyotes. Hey. Oh, geez, now I'm all nervous. I don't know what to do.
Oh no, it's the boss lady.
We could single stake our traps and not have to worry. And all of a sudden, we start losing traps. We find pieces of traps, and it's the coyotes. They came in, and there goes the neighborhood. So what I do now is I double stake my traps. First thing I do is I'll take this. Now people say how cruel and everything it is for your traps. These traps here, they don't close all the way. They have an offset. And on these are not stamped jaws, they're cast. The face of the jaw is actually flat, and it doesn't go in, and where they're cast, they're very stiff, and they don't work on the animal's foot. So the first thing I'll do, I'll come up to the set, and I'll have what I need. This is a pan cover. First thing I do, before I do anything else, is I set the trap.
Typically wear rubber boots?
Yes. Yes, I do. I wear an old pair of hip boots that have worn out. And when you're sitting for coyotes, or anything for that matter, see the way that pan sets below the level of the jaws? That's what you want right there. That's a good way to doing it. And what I do is I take my pan cover and I'll put it on top, like that. And that keeps, when I sift dirt over this, that keeps the dirt from getting underneath, so the trap won't spring. So I've done this, and I'll come up to the set, and I'll chop out a bed.
That's a special tool.
Yep. Just a leaf spring welded to a hammer.
Ah.
That's all it is. And that loosens it up nice.
Can you buy them at trapping supply places?
Yep. Yep. Now what I'll do,
Whatever you do, don't make one. I don't
Is all-
weld.
I cross stake.
Is this the two stakes? Is this a regulation requirement?
Nope,
It's your preferred method.
it is. It's a coyote requirement.
Okay. Yep.
Now one thing you want to do, a lot of times you'll come up and you'll see a trap dug up. Might be sprung, I've had them turned over. What happens is they'll come up here and they'll step on that and it wobbles. That trap wobbles and they get curious and they start to dig. Also, if you get any bait or any scent on the trap, they'll start to dig. You want to keep the scent off it, and you want it rock solid. And what I'll do is, what I'll do, and do. There. I'll rest the loose jaw on top of that. Okay, I've got all this dirt and stuff, and all this duff. I'll take and I'll pack dirt underneath these jaws. And I want that trap good and solid, and yes, I get my hands caught all the time.
I was going to ask, what is the,
It
what's
happens.
the down pressure on this? I see you just hammering and whacking and sticking your hands down there. And
I've got these to spring at about 3 pounds.
Okay.
Yep. So I just get in there.
They say that gap in the jaw is for the animal.
Yep.
They made it for
I
themselves.
just
Okay, now that, anywhere I push that, well, a little bit there, but I don't want it to wobble. So I'll pack that dirt. Like a whisk broom. And I have this piece of wood here for backing. Good enough. I'll just dust it up a little bit. Just rough it up like that. And there's your set. That's it. I'll take a little lure. Make sure this is made out of anal glands from a coyote. I'll just take and I'll put maybe 4 or 5 drops on this backing, and then I'll take some fox urine, red fox urine.
For a coyote?
Yep. Yep. A red fox will shy away from coyote urine, and they may split. A coyote won't shy away from red fox urine. I've also used bobcat urine, and I've used mink urine at canine sets, and it works really good. It's nice to change up. And this is basically it. Now I'd have my main draw right there. Nice big piece of beaver in that. I'd have a trap set just like that right in front. And then up here, just something very subtle like this. Just a touch of lure. And just I'll take, that's it with the fox urine.
Does that kind of overcome then the smell of the trap?
No, nothing. You'll never beat their nose. Any canine, when they're working a set, I don't care how clean you are, I don't care how careful you are. You can wear rubber boots. Never mind a rubber boot. You can wear a rubber suit, and you're not going to beat that animal's nose. Our what's it called? Olfactory nerve center is about the size of a postage stamp. On a coyote, it's about the size of a postcard. So you're not going to beat their nose. All this does is it thinks, well, Mr. Fox has been here before me, and they'll get hold of that scent, and that usually gets them. One of the things I stress in the trapping course is when you're going to make a set, you're going to go trapping this fall, you make your sets, you practice, and you practice, right? You took my course, right? You practice and practice making your sets. You go out into your garden, you go out into the yard. Don't tell the game warden, Paul said it's okay to go out in the woods in the summertime. That's not good. Don't do that. But you practice in your yard, and you get these, you get so you can make it and get out. And that's the best scent control you've got, is get that trap set and get out of the way.
Good for cats in the garden and stuff like that too.
Yeah, good for cats in the garden.
But they still
Good for
smell
cats
you.
in the garden, yeah.
They still smell you no matter what.
I think so, Stem. I don't think there's anything you can do to beat their nose.
Is it worth it to rubber boots and gloves and try to minimize
Yeah.
the odors?
Try to
Yeah.
minimize it. And also with the rubber boots, I don't think I'm going to do anything down in the water today. Just kind of stick up here. But with the rubber boots, the other thing it does, it saves your pants.
Yeah.
It keeps you from wearing your knees out and in your pants. Basically, that's it. Most of the coyotes that we get during the season are the young ones. Most of what we get, you know, we all like to think as a trapper, and I've had over 50 years trapping, what I like to think is that I can get those big old smart ones now and then. You know, even a blind squirrel finds a nut now and then. So I'll get a big old dog coyote. I've caught them with a couple of toes missing, and it happens. But most of what we get are pups. Okay, we get the dumb ones. I got to do it. I can't do it any other way. That's the way it is. That's life. No thanks, son. I'm good. The gloves. I use a lot of the stuff is habit. When I started catching, really started to catch some canines, it was before the fox, because it was pre-coyote days. Man, I'd do everything but gargle with that fox urine. You know, I'd wear gloves, and I tell you, I'd put a mask over, like COVID. I'd put a mask over my face so I wouldn't breathe on the set. God forbid that it was warm and I'd start to sweat, I'd go paranoid.
Yeah.
But the gloves, I think it helps. One of the best fox trappers I ever knew, what was Honey from Sedgwick, the blueberry guy. Oh, come on.
Royce Saunders?
No, Loris Clausen.
Loris Clausen.
Loris Clausen, he'd catch 100 fox a year. And he'd tell me, he'd call me a damn fool for wanting to wear gloves. He says, you go right over there, you wash your hands in that dirt. And that'll, you know, that'll help out. I use gloves out of habit. You know, I might take and just kick some of this stuff around. Be real careful when you make your set of things like this. That'll get caught between those jaws, and they'll just pull their foot right out. You want to be careful with sticks and rocks. You want to keep your set fairly clean. I'm not much on green grass, but maybe just a couple of pieces of dry grass. And that's pretty much it. Now a set like this is called a flat set. You're using just a little bit of lure and maybe a little bit of urine as an attractor. Now if I were to take this, I'd still use a backing. I like using backing. What I'd do is I'd take this trowel. I might make it what's called a dirt hole set. You know, so I'm not there because there's a rock. But I'd dig a hole almost straight down. I'm going to spring that on myself, get a face full of dirt. That's a poor way of showing it where that trap is. I dig a hole almost straight down, and I may put a little bit of bait. If I use bait, maybe the size of a walnut, no bigger. For that, I don't use big bait. Mostly, I don't use bait at all on my dirt sets for coyotes. That's pretty much it.
Tell them how you did the screen, that's window screen.
I did.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yep, I did. So,
Wax paper.
yeah, guys use wax paper. I know that my percentage of misses decreased when I went to a window screen for a pan cover. I used, when I started, I just rolled up a big oak leaf or something, and I'd stuff it under the pan to keep the dirt from going down in there. I don't like anything under it. I've used cotton balls, and that was great until it froze. An elephant couldn't set that off. But these here, actually this one is smaller, it's for a smaller trap. These here, I like. I like the metal window screen. It works pretty good.
You have some kind of way to punch them out?
You just cut them with a pair of scissors. Cut them with a pair of scissors. Normally, when I'm coyote, if I'm just targeting coyotes, I'll go to I'll be in much more open ground than this. I trap blueberry ground, private lots, and where two roads intersect, or a road will come up on top of a knoll. They like that quite well. But where more than one road come together, that's a good place to do business, because they're traveling like this here. I mean, this is
They're out in the open.
yeah, out in the open, more out in the open. But every year I catch coyotes in the alders. More fox though, but on a river, I'll get coyotes in the alders. I'll get them in openings. There's places on Pleasant River. There's one spot. It's just a glacial deposit of sand, and I'll go in that, and man, that you want to talk about a hot spot. You know, it's open. It's on the edge of the Haythen. It's nice and open, and there's something about sand and loose gravel that they really, really like. Coyotes love that. I don't know if it feels good on their feet. They defecate in it. They roll in it. They play in it. It's good place to set. But being primarily a water trapper, I come onto a place like this, you know, I'd get excited in a hurry.
Yeah, I noticed, I had blueberry ground up behind my house and walked the dog every day.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the intersection of the roads, that's always where she wanted to stop and sniff.
Yep.
Because, you know, that's the signpost for
Yep.
everything coming through there.
Yep. And one thing I'd like to stress is that early canine season that we have, we're trying to avoid the cats. You got to let your cats go, and that can be a pain in the keister. Is letting the bobcat out of a trap. I do it, but it can be kind of a little iffy at times. Your cats will hunt mostly by sight. Your canines are very attracted to smells. They hunt more by smell. And I'll never put a dirt hole set, you know, into places like that. One thing I do, now this is considered exposed bait. I'll take a piece of bone, a small piece of bone, and where it's hollow, where the marrow was, I'll put a few drops of lure in that, and I'll put it in, and I had a piece in my hand and I left it home. But I'll just put the dirt around it so it looks like just like a little teeny hole. And there's something about that bone, the way it absorbs the lure, the way it absorbs the scent, and just being bone, it's as natural as the day is long. And that's a really good attractor. But remember, that's animal parts, that's exposed bait. As tiny as that is, it's illegal. So you've got to bring the dirt around it.
So if this was a natural bone that was already found there, was it still bait?
Yes.
Like you could hunt under an apple tree, but you don't want to bring in a pile of apples. So that is a difference. But
if we're trapping, it's a whole different ball game. If you have, if you came upon a dead deer, anything, even a feather, that's naturally in the woods, you can't set within 150 feet of it unless you move it. Yep. There was a fellow from Princeton used to help with the trapping. He's passed away, but his name is Barry Wheaton. Some of you guys probably remember Barry. He was a good trapper, and he'd use a buried bait set. We'd take a whole beaver and bury it, and I mean bury it, and set a couple of traps in front of it. And you know, I mean, it's under that much dirt. And a warden, he was talking with that fellow from down east, the warden from down east, a young fellow, I can't think of his name. This was quite a few years ago. But he said, you know, he says, they come in and they dig. That coyote comes in, or a fox or something comes in and digs at that bait that you have buried. I mean, you're legal now, but they take that and they dig it, and they don't get caught. And your trap is there. He says, I'm going to write you up. Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So you're best off staying away from stuff like that. I was in the snare program before. This was better than 20 years ago, before it was made illegal. And one thing that I'd find is that when you have because I'd use big baits. I mean, I'd drag a deer in the woods with a tractor. I'd do what I had to do, and I'd get the coyotes coming. But you'd see where they start coming in and they get close to that bait, they get real antsy. They don't really like that. And they may circle that bait for days before they go into it. But you'll see where they cross a logging road, or you'll see where they go over. They'll cross a frozen beaver dam. 'Cause remember, when we were snaring, it was January, February, and March. And you'd set the trails where they'd cross that road, but you could stay a quarter, half mile away from them, and it was a lot better off. That was probably one of the best methods of coyote control that there was that snare program. It was extremely selective, and it was effective. I never did it, but there's a trapper, well, Bobby Beal, and Bobby, he'd set a trail, and he'd hang half a dozen snares. And he had one instance where there was a coyote and a snare. Another one walked around it, went back into the trail. He had that coyote. Another one walked around him. He had 3 coyotes and three snares. I've never done that. I've caught doubles in foothold traps. I have a trap here and a trap there, and I've caught doubles. I've never caught a triple.